Hi guys, Tucker here with a new video, and this video I'm actually super excited about. It is the Holy Paladin PTR, pretty much final form that is going to come out in 10.1.5. I know I may complain about a lot of stuff like around PvP, around the systems, but one thing I cannot complain is actually they are trying to make classes very fun and the specs very fun and very interactive and very skillful by themselves. So that's actually a good thing that they actually do, Blizzard, so well played to them. For PvP and also PvE, I think there is a lot of fun to be had with the kind of reworks. I saw the mage reworks as well. I wanted to cover that as well. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But with Holy Paladin, it's making it a lot more aggressive. You could see it as a combination of a holy priest and a disc priest together, because you have a lot of damage, you have a lot of healing based on the damage, you have a lot of like preventing the damage done from the abilities you're going to press with judgments, for example. You have Daybreak actually giving you some insane amount of heal bursts that you might use, but also a lot of damage bursts that you can have depending if you have your Glimmer of Light on multiple targets. No, I do not want to test the duels. I'm going to go for the talents. I'm going to cover the main points I think that are very interesting for Holy Paladins. I'm going to give you a bit of like visual representation about the Holy Paladin. And again, very excited. I think it will be my main for sure in 10.1.5 on the healer side. Like DPS side, I'm still like undecided. I really want to give warlock again a shot because I am normally a warlock main, but hopefully the VQs are a bit faster, but let's see if they're going to do that. I'm a bit disappointed about the healing balances that is actually on the PTR, because not the PTR, like on the final patch notes really. They have like not a lot of changes based on the healers, and that's a bit of a problem. So onto the talents, but I wanted to discuss about mastery. Mastery didn't really change. It does feel like, again, with Avenging Crusader, it's actually quite interesting, and I think the best stat is still going to be haste or crit and versatility. I think mastery is something that you can go for if you're like melee wings, but it's not going to be enough to like go 100% for that. Again, you should notice my gear is not the most perfect gear. So as you see, my gear is not like the best gear possible. So you can imagine it a lot better. I don't have the tier set, for example, on the Paladin. I think Holy Prism and having Holy Shocks, critical strikes, heal for 60% more is actually very huge, because you do crit a lot on Holy Shocks. So you can also already imagine the potential that it can have in PvP. Now, let's talk about the talents. There's a lot of changes, but there's too many spams here. So I'm going to go a bit further so there's not too much noise. So as you can see, there's a few changes on the class tree and a few changes on the holy tree. This would be the tree I would rock in PvP. Again, there's a lot of testing to be made. It could be that melee wings is not the best thing you can go for. Maybe Avenging Wrath might the best thing you can go for. But personally, I do like the 1 minute CD. I do like that it's now 3 holy power instead of 5, and I do like it that it has a lot of synergies overall. Now let's talk about a few things. So we have greater judgment now that it's changed. It will deem the target unworthy and preventing the next 19,000 pretty much damage dealt by the target. Now again, it's with modifiers, so in PvP it will be higher because you have higher eye level, but you can also stack it. So it means if the guy is not like doing damage, it will stack until they use the damage up. Again, if you're using it on a disc priest, for example, you can hamper a lot on the atonement healing. So you can actually judgment the disc priest to prevent a lot of healing, for example, or you're using your judgments to actually prevent the burst from, let's say, a subtlety rogue or a fire mage. So it's going to be quite strong to actually use judgment on CD, especially with melee wings. So I think judgment is going to be pretty huge. But then you have like the normal justification, which is a modifier. You have still the many things that are quite the same. But what I like is they changed a few things, which is going to be quite important on the holy spec tree. But I do like Vanguard's momentum. I like Hammer of Wrath having an extra charge. On enemies below 20% health, you will generate 1 additional holy power. So again, it will justify to press your Hammer of Wrath, not only for the damage, but also for the holy power generating, but also for the healing, which I'm going to show you on the Holy SPEC tree. Now, Holy Shock. It will be huge. It will be go back to the roots kind of huge. Holy Shock is going to be probably one of your best top healing spells for Holy Paladins. So I'm actually very excited. Glimmer of Light is going to be very high on the tree because it is going to be pretty much a Glimmer of Light spec. It's going to be like huge. The amount of Glimmer of Light procs you will have on multiple things. If it's for Daybreak, which is a spell from your Holy Shocks, or from multiple things that you actually can activate for your Glimmer of Light. It's going to be very strong overall. The power of Glimmer of Light is a lot higher. The damaging ability from Glimmer of Light is a lot higher than on 10.1, and also the healing capacity is also going to be very high. So it's going to be quite noticeable. I'm going to go through like piece per piece the changes that I like and the things that you can actually go and look forward to. Holy Shock having now 2 charges. I cannot stress how awesome that is. It's really good. Again, you have a Moments of Compassion having extra healing on Flash of Light, which is your bread and butter whenever you're going to cast. Again, melee wings is going to still require you to cast a bit. A lot of Holy Shocks, by the way, but still, if you can do a Flash of Light, it's going to be quite huge. The thing I'm loving the most is Hand of Divinity. This is going to be insane, the amount of healing you're going to have. You can compare it as a regrowth after a Swift Mend with NS. Basically, whenever you're going for a resto druid and you're actually doing Swift Mend into NS regrowth, it's going to be huge amount of healing. This is comparable. Call upon the light to empower your spells, causing your next 2 holy lights to heal 80% more, cost 50% less mana, and be instant casts. I'm going to show you the amount of healing you can actually produce with that, but it's going to be quite noticeable. I'm really loving it. You still have Divine Favor if you prefer that. It's a 30-second CD versus a 1.5-minute CD, but Hand of Divinity is going to be huge in PvP. I think Divine Favor is still going to be very strong because it is, like, again, increasing your healing from 1 cast, which is the Holy Light or Flash of Light, but it's not instant, so you still can be kicked, and it also can be dispelled. I assume that this is also dispellable. So you will have to use it very quickly before you get dispelled. But overall, I think Hand of Divinity is going to be huge and fun to play with. It can be that Divine Favor is probably better because it's a 30-second CD, but I do love Hand of Divinity because it has like 2 instant Holy Lights, which is 80% more and 50% less mana. You have Divine Revelations, which is going to refund a lot of healing for you, and it also heals more for Flash of Light. And Judgment is going to refund your maximum mana, so it's going to be quite nice as well. You're still going to get as a Holy Paladin in PvP. I noticed that you burn a lot of like mana because of Holy Shocks, and Holy Shocks is super fun. But I think it's also going to be a thing that you're going to run out of mana. Now let's go on the right side of the tree. I think there's a lot of things that are going to be quite nice. You have Glistening Radiance. Spending Holy Power has 25% chance to trigger Glimmer of Light, healing, and damage. So if you're using your World of Glory or Denounce, which is the new PvP talent, which is going to be quite nice as well, it's going to have a chance to trigger Glimmer of Light. And as you know, you're going to spam a lot of Holy Shocks. You will have a spender, which is World of Glory, which is probably going to use it whenever you have Holy Power. Whenever you're going to have Holy Power, you even can use Avenging Crusader. So everything will be around spending your Holy Power to get procs from Glimmer of Light as well, but also just your like throughput from Holy Powers, but also your Holy Shocks going to be like insane value-wise. You have also a new talent here, but I do not know if it's going to be very good in arenas. Blessed Focus. Glimmer of Light healing and damage is increased by 25%, which is huge, but it can only affect 1 target at a time, so it's going to be random. I don't think it's going to be that good in arenas, maybe in 2s. I mean, in 3s, I think it's too random. and I think in BGs it's going to be even more random. But it's going to be very effective if you're like in a 2v2 situation, or if you're like in open world and actually like soloing people as a Holy Paladin. You can basically really now, as a Holy Paladin, do win 1v1s. You can play as Shokadin, basically. That's how I feel with the testing I did on the PTR. Again, it depends on like the balancing from other classes and other specs, but you will see like a huge improvement on the damage you can do as a Holy Paladin, but also the contribution you can have as a healer with the damage you're going to do. I really like that. There is also still Holy Prism, very, very big, especially with the 4 set. You have Righteous Judgment, which is now something I took because I liked it. Judgment has a 50% chance to cast Consecration at the target's location, again adding you a bit of damage, and the limit on Consecration does not apply to this effect, so you can have multiple Consecrations and it will do some good damage. You can also play like something with Incandescences, so each Holy Power you spend has a 5% chance to cause your Consecration to flare up, and it will deal damage. So you can play around that. Personally, I do prefer Dragonflight, so I don't know if I'm going to keep that. I could spend it somewhere else, but I see myself use it in the future. Breaking down, again, increasing your Light of Dawn like yards, but personally, I do not use Light of Dawn with this build. So if you're playing RPGs, you might maybe find a way how you can cram up like some Light of Dawn build, but I feel like Light of Dawn is not something you're going to have prevalent in this build. Now on the right side, let's talk on the right side. So everything from the middle to the right, we have still Light of Dawn being something prevalent, but I'm not going to discuss that too much. What I like is the Beacon of Lightbringer, giving you healing based on the target's proximity to either you or your Beacon of Light, whichever is closest. So it means that pretty much if you're like a caster, melee caster, like a caster, wing caster, whatever, you heal your warrior that is melee with the DK. Or you, for example, you have the Beacon of Light on the DK and you're healing the warrior and they're like next to each other. It's going to have full value of the mastery, so it's going to be very strong as well. I do not know if it's like this on live, like on the Beacon of Light part. I know about myself, but I do not know about the Beacon of Light kind of thing. But I find it's quite huge, and if you play like a mastery build, I think the healing will be very high. Now, is it going to be something you're going to play? I don't know. I prefer haste and crit. That's my opinion. Awestruck. It's going to have increased healing by 20% whenever you're critically healing with Holy Shock, Holy Light, and Flash of Light. So crit is going to be very prevalent. Again, I think crit is going to be a nice stat to go for as Holy Paladin. But if in the future you want to play more haste, I can understand that. But I really like those like talents that is going to promote critical healing, which is always something that was prevalent from the get-go, from vanilla. Vanilla, whenever you're critting, you had a refund of mana, and it was always like based around crit. So now I really like the actual decision they made to go for with a crit-based healer, I would say, which is a Holy Paladin. You have imbued infusions. Again, it's going to, every time you're going to use Infusion of Light, it's going to reduce the CD of Holy Shock, again giving you a lot of like emphasis around Holy Shock, which is a good thing for a Holy Paladin. I think whenever Holy Shock was very powerful as a Holy Paladin, was always the most fun iterations of Holy Paladin. I really like it. Light's Protection, a actual very good talent that is going to be very strong in arenas. It's going to give you basically a damage reduction like passive for Holy Paladins, which is very big in arenas, very big in RPGs, very big in 2v2, especially in 2v2, and it's going to be a feel-good thing. So I really like it. I'm going to really like it, like in general. So this is a must-have. I think like damage reduction as a healer is super important. I think every single healer should have that somehow, some way baked into their kit. If it's like a damage proportion or a healing proportion, I really like the fact that that exists on the Holy Paladin tree. Then you have Shining Righteous. I took it. I do not know if it's going to be something I'm going for, but it deals damage to its first target struck. I don't think it's going to be something you have to pick to have the good damage from Denounce, but I took it to test it, and every 5 denounces you will actually spend, you will get a free Word of Glory which is always going to be nice because you then have like something to look forward to whenever you're going to have, like, let's say a weak aura and you have 5 denouncers, you know that your next World of Floor is free and you can spam healing with that. Now, if it's something that I'm going for, I do not know. I might play with Overflowing Light. 50% of Glimmer of Light's overall healing is converted into an absorb shield, and the shield amount cannot exceed 50% of your max health. I really like that as well. So there's a world where I'm going to play like something like this, and it's more like passive, but I will have to do a lot of testing to know that. So overall, I think Overflowing Light will be the thing that people will be talking about it, and I think in general will be the thing that is going to be very strong on Holy Paladin. But again, you will have to be like over healing, and that's not something you're going to often do in PvP, especially since the burst meta and the damage is very high from the get-go on every single target. But if you can like exceed heal and overheal, it might be something very interesting to have, like an absorb shield. A lot of testing will be made. I think in PvE it's going to be very strong. In PvP, I do not know if it's going to be very applicable. We'll see. One thing I also like is Tower of Radiance, but also it exists on like live. But I like it in general. It's something that is very smooth, and I really am thankful that they changed that to something as smooth as it could be as Tower of Radiance. You have Divine Glimpse, again increasing your critical strike chance for Holy Shock and Judgment, giving it emphasis again to crit. So I think if you're building for crit, it's going to be quite possibly the best thing you can go for as a Holy Paladin. Personally, I think a combination of haste and crit will be the best thing going forward for Holy Paladin, but time will tell. It might be that if you're going to spam crit, it's going to be better for you as a Holy Paladin than like going for a haste kind of build. I do like sometimes to cast like a Flash of Light or a Holy Light whenever you can. But it can be that you have like no place to actually cast a Holy Light or Flash of Light, so maybe crit, then it's a lot better to actually have a huge amount of heals. Reclamation is a fun talent, which I took. Now I don't know if it's going to be very good in PvP again, but we'll have to test a lot. I like it. So Holy Shock and Crusader Strike refund up to 15% of their mana cost, so I really like that as well. And deal up to 50% more healing or damage based on the target's missing health. So about the Crusader Strike thing, I don't really care, because you're not really spamming Crusader Strike to do a lot of damage. Let's be real. But Holy Shock having 50% more healing based on the target's missing health. I do not know what's the threshold. It can be 30%, it could be 20%, it could be even 1%. But if let's say at 10% you have like maximum threshold, it's going to be healing for a drastic amount, like a flash of like light kind of amount. If you're casting, you're going to heal that amount, for example. It's going to be quite big, and Holy Shock is something you can spam and something you will have increased power because of Glimmer of Light, so you should not take it as just face value, but there's also like another value behind it, which is the Glimmer of Light healing, which is again quite big for this spec. Again, melee wings, same kind of thing, but a 3 holy power instead of 5, which is quite big. We have Blessing of Summer still. You have also Merciful Auras. I feel like that's too little to actually care. We will have to test it. I think in RBGs it might be fun, because it's healing like everyone within 20 yards. And if you're using Aura Mastery, it's going to be 40 yards, and healing is increased by 50%. It's kind of the same as like a resto druid T0 kind of healing, right? But I still prefer Blessing of Summer for like arenas. Influences of the Sunwall is the thing that I'm actually like taking instead of Empyrean Legacy. I think Empyrean Legacy is not that good anymore. You're judgmenting a lot, so sometimes you do not want to prog that, and you will just prog that. While Influences of the Sunwall is going to be quite huge, because it has good synergy with imbued infusions, and just in general it's going to be like a feels good thing to go for. So Infusion of Light has 1 additional charge, and it also in the passive itself it increases the greatest judgment effect by an additional 50%. So this is going to be increased by 50%. Very strong. And also reduces the cost of Flash of Light by an additional 30%, and causes every 3 casts of Holy Light to generate an additional holy power. In general, I think the best passive you can have for Holy Paladins, because it's like baked three things into one passive, which is a huge value talent, and I think everyone should take that instead of Empyrean Legacy. Empyrean Legacy is more fun, but I really liked it in Shadowlands, where you had like a separate button, Vengeance Hammer, to actually like press and get actually the proc. Now with Judgment, since you're spamming it, you're going to proc it every time, and it's not going to be the best thing going forward for Holy Paladins. We have another talent here, Awakening, which is now streamlined and less proc based, which is quite awesome. I would like to see that for Enhancement Shaman as well, but I don't know if they're going to do that. They're baking a PvP talent, which is Reckoning, into the Awakening kind of talent, and make it more streamlined and controlled, so you can actually test and see what's going on your screen. So we have, while in combat, your holy power spenders generate 1 stack of Awakening. At 12 stacks of Awakening, your next judgment deals 30% increased damage, will critically strike, and activate Avenging Crusader for 8 seconds. So again, no RNG, you will for sure have 12 stacks at one point, and you will then judgment, and you will know, look, at that moment I will have Avenging Crusader. You will also have like a lightning up effect on your judgment, so you cannot miss it. I think personally it's a very fun talent. I like it. You're going to generate so many holy powers, that spenders, that just in general you're going to have stacks very easily and very reliably. I really like that. You can also go for a Sanctified Wrath build, which reduces the CD from Holy Shock. Now Holy Shock is already very low CD wise, and you will spend a lot of mana because of that, but personally I go for Awakening because I think it's very fun to play around that. Also more damage on judgment, and also critically strike. Again, you're more of a critically strike healer based spec. So we have now a great talent here, Glorious Dawn. So Holy Shock has a 10% chance to refund the charge when cast, increasing by 1.5% for each Glimmer of Light you have active. You will have a lot of active Glimmer of Light. You might have 6 in arenas even. So it's going to be quite big. You can refund it, you can basically spam Holy Shocks if you're lucky. And again, Glimmer of Light's healing in damage increased by 10%. Huge value talent, and there's no real talent you can put elsewhere to have like that value in PvP. Now let's talk about the big piece, Veneration. Veneration, so it makes a Hammer of Wrath very worth it to actually cast to get healing. So whenever you can have a Hammer of Wrath, just do it. You will have 200% healing from the damage done you're doing, and you can do some quite good damage, especially whenever you're in wings. So you will be healing the same amount as, like, let's say a Holy Shock, and it costs a lot less mana. And again, it's also better in 2s than in 3s because it's split evenly among them. Personally, I think in 2s it's going to be quite strong to play with that, and in 3s I think you can pretty much remove that and go for something else. Let's say maybe a aura, Unwavering Spirits, aura mastery, or protection of the tier, or anything else you want to play around another like talent. Personally, I play that because I do like Hammer of Wrath having some kind of value, and also critical strikes from Judgments, Flash of Light, and Holy Light will reset the cooldown of Hammer of Wrath and make it usable on any target. So again, high value, high damage, and high healing overall. Beacon of Fate, it's the same as on retail, like right now, like 10.1, so nothing to discuss. Daybreak is the big piece. I really like it. So it absorbs your active Glimmer of Light, triggering their effects at 200% value and granting 3000 mana per Glimmer of Light. So if you have it on your enemies, if you have it on your allies, it's going to trigger ×2 pretty much. Like, I think ×2 or ×3, I don't know, because it's like 200% of value, so I think ×2. And it will also grant the mana per Glimmer of Light, so you can basically regen 15% of your mana because of that. It's a 1 minute CD. You're going to use it pretty much like all the time, because preventively you're going to have a lot of mana because of that, and the value is very good. But also the effect afterwards is pretty much OP. I think that's very OP. After casting Daybreak, your next 3 Holy Shocks cost 2 additional times. So if you're going to Holy Shock yourself, let's say you do 60k healing, you can do ×2. 2 additional ×3, excuse me. So it means that she's going to do 60k, 60k, 60k. And it's, again, going to trigger Glimmer of Light, so you're going to have insane healing. Like, the burst healing is legit going to full heal you because of Daybreak. I think it's going to be OP. Now, if it's going to get tuned, I think it will be, but it is very strong. This is going to make Holy Paladins really hard to kill and their teammates really hard to kill, and I'm all for it. I think it, based on Daybreak, it's going to be very fun. I think the damage is going to be very fun, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the Shokadin build will be possible with this build. You can basically 1v1 anyone right now. I will have to test it on live servers, but this is going to be strong, especially with the 2-set increased healing on crit. I mean, if you're critting that, you're going to pretty much chunk people, but also like heal like a lot of like your teammates because of that. So I'm all for it. I really like it. Now let's talk really quickly about the PvP talents. They removed Reckoning. Judgment of the Pure is not changed on the PTR. I mean, Cleanse of the Weak is changed on PTR, excuse me. So this is a big talent. I really like that. When you cleanse an ally, one ally within 40 yards is dispelled of the same effect, but the cooldown of cleanse is increased by 4 seconds. That's not that great. Because you can maybe dispel a harsh and there is no one else that is affected by it, and it will increase the cooldown by 4 seconds. But what I like is like healing allies with your Flash of Light or Holy Light will cleanse diseases and poisons from the target. It's going to be very strong versus DKs, like Unholy DKs. It's going to be very strong versus Assassination Rogues. I think that is going to be the play if you want to play versus, let's say, if you're going to play versus those kinds of classes. This is not something you're going to pick and always pick it. It's more like based around the targets you're going to face in arenas. I think it's also not that great in PGs, except if you're facing multiple Unholy DKs or multiple Assassination Rogues or other like classes that have diseases and poisons. But personally, I will be playing that versus Unholy DKs and Assassination Rogues, but outside of that, I'm not going to touch it. There is Divine Vision. I think it's very strong, especially with the Unwavering Spirit. Reducing it will be like a 1.5 minute CD. I think it's also a possibility, especially in RPGs. You have Hallowed Ground, which is now something that you can actually play for if you're playing like with the Judgment that gives a consecration. It's going to be quite nice, and nobody will be snared within that area, especially if you're playing with a melee cleave. It's going to be quite nice. Judgment of the Pure is still the same effect as on live servers. Divine Playa is something you can play. Now, I think it's like huge, but also like going to hamper the fact that you're playing with Rising Sunlight. It's going to reduce 30% of your healing and damage as well for 15 seconds. It's like a Holy Paladins in Wrath of the Lich. I really like that. But I think it's the same. It's better. The mana proportion is better than with Daybreak, but it removes the part of the 3000 mana per Glimmer of Light. So if you have 6 targets, it will be pretty much 18,000. So you will have like 6k mana more over 15 seconds, but have less healing, which you will be spending more mana to actually catch up with healing and damage. So I think that's not really the best thing. I think it will need a buff if you want to see play of that. I will never play Divine Playa. I think it's not really fun to play as well. I really prefer to play Daybreak like vanilla kind of style. What I mean with vanilla, it's like unchanged kind of style. Ultimate Sacrifice is very strong as well. Avenging Light is going to be quite nice with the Hands of Divinity. It's going to be doing quite like a lot of damage, but I think it's going to be better in RBGs, for example. And that's pretty much it. You're still going to play Blessed Hands, in my opinion. Searing Glare is still very OP, so please do play it. And Denounce is something I want to discuss. It's a ability that you're going to spend 3 holy power for, but it will prevent critical effects. So it means that a fire mage is going to be screwed, a subtlety rogue is going to be screwed. So this is going to be very strong to play versus like specific comps. Again, you will have to cast it, they can kick you, you will have to spend holy power, and again, whenever you're actually casting it, it means that you have no healing afterwards. But I do like the part that it has some damage, so it has some poke, but also it has the second part, which is going to prevent critical strikes to be made by the target. So an Arms Warrior, for example, a Fury Warrior is going to hate their lives because of that. Now, let's talk about the healing. So I'm going to target the training dummy for to heal, to have like the healing done at tab, but I'm going to hit the PvP dummy. So if I'm using the daybreak, you don't have any. Okay, I have it now. All right. If I'm using daybreak, I don't have it keybind. I will have like holy shock being lightened up, and I'm going to heal multiple times the target with holy shocks. And I think just in general, it's going to be quite nice to have it. You see the amount of healing from holy shock is going to be quite substantial. Now, luckily, it's actually resetting, but you see that the amount of healing is quite strong, especially if you're critting. It's going to full heal someone with just one cast of holy shock. It's 234k plus also the glimmer of light proc that can proc for 68k. I think you cannot really understand how much that is just for a passive. It is basically healing someone for 400k, and this is probably without the modifiers, because I have to hit the PvP dummy there to actually have it. I do not know if there is a PvP healing dummy. I don't think so, but in general, it's going to be quite huge, the amount of healing you can produce with Daybreak. Again, there's also like an ability, I don't know where I found it, Hand of Divinity. If I'm going to use it, I'm going to strike him. I'm going to use my Holy Light. You see, it is instant, doing 110k, and it's not critting. It's instant great healing without mana cost. And also, if it crits, which you should probably build a bit of crit in your builds, you're going to do insane healing with that, and that's without Avenging Crusader. So if I'm in Avenging Crusader, I'm going to use my Holy Shock there, Daybreak, and then I'm going to pretty much like try to heal the target for whatever I can, and it's going to be quite insane the amount of healing I can produce. It's again also a lot of like Divine Toll synergy that you can have. With Divine Toll, you're going to do a lot of like Grim of Light healing. You see that's like my top 2 healing done just based with my Holy Shock. Of course, you will do some Flash of Light, you will do some Judgments with Avenging Crusader, but this is going to be quite nice. Glimmer of Light proccing for 140k is insane. I think you do not understand how much healing that can be just based off a passive. I'm actually very excited about it. Again, I will be doing more videos once it's going to come live. I know that's a bit chaotic on a target dummy, because again, I don't really know if I'm still having the PvP modifier or if I'm not having PvP modifier, but hopefully I can show you guys like gameplay for it, and I'm very, very excited about it. I think Holy Paladins will be the flavor of the month, and it will be staying like that until they eventually get nerfed somehow, some way. Personally, I prefer them to not nerf Holy Paladins and make other healers to the same standards of Holy Paladins. But I'm looking forward to them to actually realize that in PvP. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Be sure to stay safe. We will catch you very soon in the next video. Have a good day. Bye.